I'm not telling you not to weigh yourself before anybody kind of jumps down that bandwagon. Obviously, taking your weight and keeping a track of your weight is an important metric, but I think we put too much emphasis on that one wee thing. And then when it doesn't go our way, we shit our knickers and we think that whatever we're doing is not working. Right, welcome back to episode number 3 of the Fit Dad Revolution podcast. And today we're going to talk about how to measure progress when it comes to losing weight. All right, now I'm probably going to go against everything that you've ever thought about weight loss. Obviously, the first thing people look at is the scale. So when it comes to losing weight, the first thing people look at is the scales, and that's the only thing they put all their focus on when it comes to whether or not they're being successful in their efforts or not. And today we're going to put that to the side. I'm not telling you not to weigh yourself before anybody kind of jumps down that bandwagon. Obviously, taking your weight and keeping a track of your weight is an important metric, but I think we put too much emphasis on that one wee thing. And then when it doesn't go our way, we shit our knickers and we think that whatever we're doing is not working. All right, so we're going to have a look at something different today and things that I think you should be focusing on to actually get a really good understanding of how much progress you are making. And it's got nothing to do with the scale. All right, so before we do dive into that, if you haven't done so already, please make sure you're dropping me a little, hitting that wee subscribe button, so you can get access to these kind of videos when they come, and make sure you're hitting the kind of notifications tab as well, so as soon as these episodes drop, you are getting notified so you can jump on. So yeah, let's dive in. So when it comes to losing weight, like I said earlier, man, the first thing people want to do is jump on the scales, and I get it, right? So the whole thing about losing weight is losing weight. So you want to check to see if you are actually losing weight. So you jump on the scales, you maybe do that once a week, or some people are terrified of the scales, they'll do it every couple of weeks or whatever. And when it's coming down, it feels brilliant, right? It feels really good. The weight's coming down, you hop on the scales, yay, I'm losing weight, whoop, 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 everything's working well. Right, but what happens if you jump on the scales and you've not lost weight, or your weight stayed the same, or maybe you've gained a few pounds? Right, if you're like most people, you'll look at that and you'll absolutely fill your pants. You'll think that you've done something wrong. And then, again, if you're like most people, you'll then tend to go and start stuffing your face full of all the crap under the sun just to console yourself for the fact that you've hopped on the scales and it's told you you've gained 2 pounds. Well, here's the thing, man. The scale is a very valuable metric, or it's a very valuable tool, actually, to say, but it's not the only thing you should be putting your focus on, all right? And to help you to understand your body weight, man, your body weight can fluctuate from day to day. Like, you could hop on the scales one day and then do absolutely everything right over the course of that day, but then the next day your weight could be up, and that could be determined by a whole number of different things, all right? So for the most part, when your weight fluctuates like that, it's never, ever, ever body fat, all right? It's always, most of the time it's always water, but sometimes it could be just food left in your system from the day before. You might just be eating a great big poo, or you maybe hopped on it before you've had a pee in the morning, all right? So it's never, ever body fat when you have large fluctuations like that. I've seen me gaining as much as 4 or 5 pounds overnight, depending on what I've eaten the night before, all right? So what I want to kind of grind, we want someone a wee kind of rammy in the background, so sorry about the noise. What I want you to kind of really get into your head is that the scale is only one part of the puzzle when it comes to losing weight and actually measuring your progress, and it's actually a really small part of the puzzle, all right? Because like I said earlier, man, your weight can fluctuate so much from day to day depending on the food you've had. If you've had a really carbohydrate heavy meal the night before, you will hop on the scales the next day and you'll have gained weight, like almost guaranteed that you're going to have gained weight. And then you'll probably look at that and go, oh man, I had that big plate of rice. Rice makes you fat. You automatically then associate the fact that you've gained some weight due to the fact that you've had some rice. So you then think that rice is a food that makes you fat. You're probably then going to cut it out. Or bread's a big one. People eat a bit of bread, they gain a little bit of weight and they think that bread's the enemy. Right? It's not the case. Right? It's just unfortunate because you've had some carbohydrates. Your body's just probably held on to a wee bit more water. So you've retained a little bit more water. So when you've then hopped on the scale, you've gained some weight. Now here's the thing. When most people take their weight, most people take it on a weekly basis. Now, admittedly, I'll get my clients to take it on a weekly basis. Now, the reason I do that is because a lot of people have got a really negative relationship with that scale. And if I get you hopping on a daily, I'm going to talk about the most accurate way to take your weight in just a wee second. But if I get you hopping on that daily, it might cause you all kinds of anxiety, right? You might look at it like, oh, it's up today, it's down tomorrow, it's the same, it's up, it's down. It can be all over the place. So it can be quite an anxious thing. Ideally, what I want to train you to do is to do it the most accurate way, which we'll speak about in a second. But if you are taking your weight, and this is something that I have to coach my clients through quite a lot, is if you're taking your weight, let's just say, for example, every Monday morning or every Sunday morning, like whenever it is you take it. Again, it's all good when your weight's trending down the way. If your weight's going down the way, that's incredible. It's awesome. It feels amazing. You're making progress. Yes, awesome. But then what happens if you have hopped on the scales when you have had a carb-heavy meal the night before, or maybe you've had a lot more salt than normal, or maybe you're just feeling a bit more stressed than normal and your body's just kind of reacting a little bit differently and you're holding on to a bit more water. All right, there can be so many different variables, and you hop on the scales that morning when your weight's on a kind of an upward fluctuation, and all of a sudden you think you've done something wrong, even though you've done everything right through the whole week. You think that because you had that pizza for your dinner on Saturday night, oh, I can't believe it, I had a pizza. It's the end of the world. And then you'll respond to that by going away and stuffing your face with all the food under the sun just to make yourself feel better, because, well, what's the point, right? You've gained some weight, I might as well just go bananas. It's nearly the end of the month, I might as well go nuts for the rest of the month. I'll start again next month. Right? And it's that one wee bit, that one wee kind of fluctuation in weight is never ever a problem. It's never a massive issue. More often than not, what is an issue is the massive overreaction that you take to it. It's the same as when people are, they'll be doing really well, they'll have this perfectionist mindset when it comes to dieting, but yet they'll fall off track and they'll have a pizza, or they'll have a fish supper, or somebody's coming to the office with a box of donuts and you'll eat all the donuts. Right, because you've been restricting them out your life, all of a sudden you see that as a huge issue. You're like, oh, I can't believe I've done that. You've actually been doing really well for the last 3 weeks. You've not had any kind of deviations from your diet, and then all of a sudden you eat 12 donuts or whatever it is, and you think that you've just ruined all your progress by eating those donuts. So you then eat another 12 donuts plus 3 bars, a kebab, 6 pints, and a pizza. And it's never ever the donuts themselves that have been the issue. It's everything else you then go and stuff your face with. The same goes with weight. Hopping on the scales and being a couple of pounds over is never an issue, but you look at that and think it's a massive disaster, so you then go and console yourself by stuffing your face or falling off track with your diet. So the couple of pounds is never the issue, but the overreaction is. And then over time, that overreaction is what's going to then make you gain weight. Right? Because like I said earlier, like, overnight weight gain is never ever fat. It's never ever body fat. It's almost always water. And in the cases that it's not, it's food that's left over in your system, or maybe, as I say, you're needing a poo, or you've just not been for a pee yet. Right? Go and do any of those things and I guarantee your weight will have changed the next day. Right? So if we are measuring progress, if we're looking at weight as the only metric, what is the right way to do it? Well, the absolute right way, the most accurate way to do it, accurate way to do it, is to take your weight every single day. If you were to weigh yourself every single morning, so obviously do that, like wake up in the morning, before you drink any water, anything like that, just wake up in the morning, get to the toilet, do a pee, do a poo if that's your thing, man, in the morning, whatever you would be, do your usual kind of toilet habit, then hop on the scale. That's going to give you your most accurate read for that day. Like, don't do it last thing at night. If you do it last thing at night, you're probably doing it with all your clothes on. You've had all the food that you've had for the whole day. You've loads of water that you've been drinking. You've probably had a load of salt, so your body's going to be heavier. All right, even if you say, well, I'll take it every night, it doesn't matter, because the foods that you eat through the day might be different. So the retention that you're going to have with those foods might be different. So you're not going to get the most accurate read. Take it first thing in the morning. Get your toilet habits done. Jump on the scales. Take a note of it first thing in the morning. Write it down. Then do the same thing again the following morning, and do that every single morning over the week. And then at the end of the week, take an average, right? Get the average number, and that's going to give you your most accurate number over the course of the week. Now, some days it's going to be up, some days it's going to stay the same, some days it's going to be down. But what you're looking for is over the course of the week is for that to be maybe slightly down. Is that going to be the case every week when you're on a weight loss journey? No. All right, some weeks you're going to go down, then you'll look at the next week, it's up a wee bit, then it's going to go down, then it'll stay the same, then it'll go up. And we've got a lovely wee graph that we can give to all our clients. We can plug all the numbers in for them. And when you look at the graph, it looks like a roller coaster. It goes up and down, up and down, up and down. But if you look at it over time, like over the course of the time that we work together, if you go from the start point to the end point and just took a ruler and drew a line, you would see a lovely straight line that's trending down the way. But in between that, you've got loads of kind of fluctuations that move up and down. Right? And this is what we need to really coach people through, is how to get through those fluctuations, because that's where most people quit. That's where most people look and go, oh, this isn't working, and they pack it in, regardless of what approach they take. All right, regardless of what approach they're taking, as soon as a fluctuation comes in, that's it, game over. Right, so my job is to coach people through that. That's the biggest thing that I do. Like giving you a workout plan and giving you a diet, that's the easy part. Coaching you to keep on going and work through those fluctuations, that's the difficult bit. That's the bit that takes work. All right, so if you are using weight as your only metric, please understand that it's a very, very small part, and there's so many other things you can focus on. So what else do we focus on? Well, let's stick with the measurement sides initially, but then I'm going to change it a little bit, and you'll see why when I get to this. So from a measurement perspective, obviously we take our weight, we then take our hip measurements, our waist measurements. If you're lifting weights, you maybe want to take your guns, maybe your thighs, you want to measure all those things. Now what you'd be looking for, especially if you're lifting weights, is for your hip measurements and your waist measurements to be coming down, but then as you're measuring your kind of biceps, your thighs, all these kind of things, what we'd ideally be looking for is for those things, that your waist, your hips to be coming down, but then your biceps, your thighs to be moving up, because then we're putting on muscle mass. And this is where people might hit a bit of a stumbling block as well, especially if they are lifting weights. If you're looking at your weight as your only metric, but then your weight stays the same and you're not then tracking these other things, you've no idea of what's happening within your body. Because if you're lifting weights and you're eating the right amount of protein, like that's something for a different podcast that we'll dive into, but if you're eating the right kind of foods, the right amounts of foods, and you're lifting weights, you're going to be putting on some muscle mass. So if your measurements are coming down, but your weight has stayed the same, or perhaps even gone up a wee bit, but your measurements around your waist and your hips are coming down, but the measurements around your arms and maybe your chest, maybe your thighs is going up, that suggests that you're losing body fat. So you're making progress, but because you're only focused on the scale and you've seen it stayed the same, or you've seen it's gone up, you look at that as a disaster and think you're not making progress anymore. So then you pack it all in, you stop going to the gym, you stop eating properly, you start stuffing your face, because what's the point, right? So that's a really good example to show you why the scale can be really unreliable at times, and we have to look at the bigger picture in things. Right, so we take our measurements as well. The next thing we look at with our clients is we get them to take progress pictures. We take a progress picture every single week. Now, week upon week, you're not going to really see a difference, and some people will look and go, I'm not making much progress. But when I take your picture from week 1, and then we then look at week 12, for example, depending on how long we work together, when we look at week 12, you can see a huge difference in people. You can see their body shapes change. You can see that their fat's gone down around about their midsection. You can see they've clearly put on a bit of size around about their shoulders, right? If we've got them in the gym. So you can see a massive difference there. So that alone can really give you a big boost, because just showing you the graph, you're like, oh yeah, okay, it's coming down, but there's a lot of fluctuation. Okay, cool. If I show you those pictures, you then go, whoa, wait a minute. That's a massive difference. I can really see what's going on there. I can actually really see the change in myself, because you don't tend to see it. You don't tend to see it when you're just looking at yourself in the mirror. You might not see it quite as clearly, but when you can see two pictures side by side, wow. Right, and what normally happens around about that sort of same time is other people are noticing the difference. So here's another metric. Are other people noticing that your body shape's changing? Are they noticing you're looking healthier? Are they noticing you're looking fitter? Are they noticing you're looking happier because you've got more energy every day, so your mood's changing? Are they noticing differences within you? Right, if you can start to then look at those things, well, do you know what, man, things are starting to change. Things are starting to kind of move in the right direction. All right, oh man, my weight stayed the same for 4 weeks, but my wife's told me that I'm looking super hot. All right, my wife's told me that I'm looking that my body shape's changed, and she's like, woohoo, check you. All right, there's a really good indication that you're making massive progress. So there's something else we can look at. Are your clothes starting to fit better? How do you feel in general? All right, these are all other things that you can look at from a measurement perspective, like a tangible sort of measurement perspective, to say, I am still making progress. Even though that number on the scale isn't maybe telling me what I want to hear, everything else is moving in line. And this is where we need to change the relationship we have with the scale. All right, we need to just look at it as it's just a number. Sometimes it'll be up, sometimes it'll be down. But we have to remove the emotional connection that we have with that number, because it honestly really doesn't matter all that much. Obviously, if you have a lot of weight to lose, like if you're in the point where you've got like 50 to 100 pounds to lose, we want to be bringing that number down, right? From a health perspective, we definitely want to be bringing that number down. So week upon week, we want to be making sure we're making some kind of progress. Sometimes that weight won't move, but are we bringing everything else into line? Are our measurements coming down? Are we feeling better? Like, we need to track a lot of different things there. So of course it is an important metric. I just don't want you to make it your only metric. So with my clients now, on that point, I hope I've made that super clear, all right? Because it is a big thing that we have to coach people around, and it's a big thing that I think the health industry as a whole has done a really good job or a bad job, depending how you want to look at this, but they've done a really good job of making people that that's the only thing they need to focus on. All right, everything's so weight focused, weight, and of course it's good to get people conscious of that, but I don't want people thinking that's the only thing they need to use to measure their progress, because it's really not. All right, and if we can remove ourselves from that and look at all these other things, we're going to make so much more progress, and we'll be so much happier along the line. So what else do I get people looking at? All right, so let's move that to the side. That's important, but those are outcome-based goals, right? Those are all outcome-based goals. And what I will say about outcome-based goals is they're largely out of your control. They are largely, you cannot control what happens with that stuff. You cannot control the number on the scale. You can't control what anybody else is going to say to you. You can't control how you're going to feel day to day. You might wake up in a funk. You have no control over that. It's just a thing. You can influence it, certainly, but you can't control it. All right, you can't control those measurements. They're out with your control. So if all we focus on is making that, like, this is where people, if I tell people to give me their goals for the week within our program, I say, give me your goals for the week. What are your goals? I'm going to lose 4 pounds. Right, okay, cool, man. That's a lot of weight to lose for a week. And you know, that number is massively out of your control. That's not something you have a lot of control over. So if it doesn't happen, what happens then? You know, where do you go with that? Because if you then only maybe lose 1.5 pounds, are you seeing that week as a disaster because you've not hit your goals? All right, so let's try and remove that as being the goal that we focus on. Of course, that's where we want to get to. That's the kind of long-term vision. But on top of that, we like to focus on what we call process-based goals. All right, so what I mean by that is when we put the right process in place. So, you know, one of the big things that I think on an earlier podcast, we spoke about the sort of framework that we use to get clients to that sort of first 20 pounds loss. You know, are we eating more protein at every single meal? Are you following our 3-1-3 framework where you're eating your 3 meals, your 1 protein-based snack, your 3 litres of water? Are you following that every single day? You know, have you got the back on track, next second mentality dialed in? But if you do have a slip up, or when you do have a slip up, are you just course correcting quickly? Have you managed to kind of nail that in? Are you going to the gym 2 to 3 times a week? If you're not in the gym and you're training at home, are you doing 2 to 3 home workouts every single week? Are you walking every single day? You know what I mean? Like, what process, what things are you doing on a daily basis to get yourself to the goal? Because the goal, the outcome, is out of your control, like I said earlier. The process is massively in your control. And if you focus on doing the things you need to do to get to the outcome, you're going to see that the outcome comes to you so much faster than if all you ever focus on is that overall goal that you want to achieve. Let's start focusing on the steps that we need to take every day and then celebrating those. All right, so when I get to the end of the week and I say to my clients, what's been your biggest win this week? Of course, people will go, oh, you know, I lost 3 pounds. Amazing, cool, awesome. What I really love is when people will say to me, man, I went out for my walks every single day. I've only been managing 3,000 steps for the last 4 weeks, but I managed to get up to 8,000 steps. I doubled my steps. Wow, dude, that's incredible. That's amazing progress. I went to the gym and I managed to, you know, I was doing some back squats and I managed to add 10 kilos into my back squats, or I managed to add on an extra 20 kilos to my back squats, or I added in an extra set. You know, let's focus on that process. I drunk 3 litres of water every day and I'm feeling fantastic, man. I've got so much more energy. I've got much less brain fog. Let's focus on those process steps and let's celebrate those steps, because when you focus on the process, the goals have got a funny habit of taking care of themselves. All right, and I actually done a post on this on my personal Facebook page the other day. We climbed a Munro last week. If you're not from Scotland, you don't know what a Munro is. It's just a big old hill. But we went up to the Scottish Highlands and we climbed the Munro. It's the first time I've done one for years, and I really enjoy climbing them. They're a challenge, they're difficult. You know, depending where the weather's at, it can be a real challenge. And depending how many midges are out to play, it can be an itchy journey as well if you get bitten a lot. But thankfully there were no midges. Yeah, it was really good. But the weather held. It was a good day. It wasn't overly hot. There was a bit of wind to cool us down when we did get a bit sweaty. But we climbed up this Munro. It took us, I think, 3.5 hours up and down. We had about a 20-minute break, kind of on the way back down again for a bit of lunch. So all in, the whole journey was about 4 hours long. And it was tough, man. It was tough. You know, most of the hill was okay, but there was one patch in it that was bloody hellish. It was really rough. My knees and my legs were trembling by the time we got up to the top. It was just a constant grind. But the sense of achievement once we got there was incredible. So the goal, obviously the outcome, was to get to the top. All right, we got to the top. There was a cloudy day, but the clouds broke, man. We got a lovely view right down into the valleys, all sides, nice and panoramic, all sides. We got a really great view all round, and it was a great achievement. We got there, it was awesome. And it was my friend that came up with me. It was his first time climbing one, so he managed. He had some issues with his knees in the past, so his knees were really playing up about maybe 3/4 of the way up the hill, and he had to really grind through to get there. But he got there, and we got to the top, and it was incredible. But when we were at the bottom and we're looking at the top, it just seemed like such a long way away. It seemed like there was such a long distance to go, and if we just focused on that end result, if we just focused on the top and kept looking at the top, it just seemed like it was going to take forever. So the only thing, and getting there wasn't in our control. Like the clouds could have came in, the weather could have changed, it might have started raining, you know, we might have had to turn around and come back down. All right, none of that was in our control. The only thing we could control was putting one foot in front of the other and keeping on going, encouraging each other, keeping on working through, having a wee pause when we need to have a pause, having a drink of water when we needed a drink of water. But the only thing we could control was our own attitude, our own mindset. Like if we were going, oh, this is really difficult, this is hard, I don't want to do this anymore, we would have packed it in. But we kept pushing forward, one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other, one foot in front of the other. That was the process. We focused on the process and the goal took care of itself. We got to the top of the mountain. Even when it seemed like we got round the corner and we thought we got to the top, we got round the corner, I was like, ah, bugger. And it was a way up and over another bit of a hill. I had to go another full trek. It was like another 40 minutes away from where we were. You know, so it was a bit like, ah, Jesus Christ. So, but again, then we had to focus on the process. Like, what do we need to do? We need to take some more steps. We need to get to that bit there. And then we got there and it was so worth it in the end. We reached our goal. Weight loss is no different. All right, if all you focus on is that number on the scale, if you just focus on only the goal, then it's going to seem like it's getting further and further away, especially if you're looking at the scale as your only measure of progress. All right, the minute you have that fluctuation and you pack in, you're just going to keep on going round and round in circles. All right, we need to break away from that mentality, change that relationship with the scale, understand that it is going to change daily, and it could be a big swing from day to day. I'm going out for Chinese food tonight. I was down at 84.1 this morning when I hopped on the scales. Guaranteed I'm up at about 85.5 tomorrow. Guaranteed. All right, I didn't have a big lunch. I knew I was going out for it tonight, so I've not had a big lunch. I'm intending to go for a quick run if time permits today. So I might be okay, but I fully anticipate that tomorrow, because I'm not going to go for a Chinese meal and not have a whole pile of rice. It's one of the buffet things. I'm going to eat a lot. All right, I've made an allowance for it. I'm going to eat a lot, man. I'm going to have all the rice, all the noodles, all the chickeny stuff with all the batter on it. I'm not skimping. So I know that tomorrow, because of all the salt and because of all the carbs, my weight's probably going to be up. All right, I'm probably going to be up a little bit on my weight, and that's okay. All right, I'm not going to be too fussed about it, because I know that by then Monday, by the time Monday's done, I'm going to have worked out. I'll have had a good exercise session. My diet will be back to normal. I'm back on track next second. When I get on the scales Tuesday morning, if I was to choose to weigh myself again, I don't do it all the time. If I was to choose to do it again, my weight would be back down. So it's not a massive issue. All right. So in closing, biggest takeaway. Please don't just make the scales your only metric of progress, all right? Because while it is important, it's not the only thing. It's a very small piece of the puzzle, all right? Focus on all the other things that we spoke about, your measurements, your progress pictures, how other people see you, your clothes fitting better, how you're feeling. Those are all really great metrics to focus on. But then over and above that, remember, those are all out with your control. Focus on the things you can control and celebrate them. I got my steps in. I managed to drink my water. I've eaten more protein today. All right, I've managed to get to the gym 3 times this week. I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling strong. I've increased all my lifts. I've got personal bests in all my lifts. I went for a run and I've got a much faster time. Like whatever it is, focus on the process, celebrate the process, get consistent in the process, and the goal will take care of itself. All right, so anyway, that's us for this one, man. I hope that all made some sense to you. If it did, I would love to hear your thoughts. Drop me a little comment down below. If you've got any questions, let me know. Drop them down below. If you're not kind of too sure on what the process should look like for you, I'd be more than happy to help. So drop me a little comment down below this video if you can. I don't know if you can do that on podcasts. I'm still new to this. Can you drop comments on podcasts? I don't know, man. Drop a comment and let me know. I don't know how this works, but you know, if you can't drop comments on podcasts, feel free to connect with me on Instagram or on Facebook. So at Ian Jack Fitness on Instagram. Just look for Ian Jack on Facebook, or I'm over on YouTube as well, again at Ian Jack Fitness. And this video will be on there if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and leave me a little comment. Let me know your thoughts, and if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to help. But until the next one, thank you. See you then.